Welcome back to another edition of Now That's Weird, the radio show on TV. With me tonight here in UFO Congress in Laughlin, Nevada, is a name that's going to be familiar to most of you watching out there, I'm sure. Stan Romanek. Stan, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Now, you've got the talk out the way. You've done that. Went down very, very well here at Congress. But for people that may not know the full story, tell us from the start how you got into all this and what in particular has stood out for you.
Really, it probably started when I was a child, but as a child, you don't really put two and two together till some major event happens. Really, it started in December of 2000. I met a woman online. She's now my beautiful wife, and she lived in Nebraska. I lived in Colorado, and we had this long-distance relationship going. I wanted her to come visit me in Colorado, and I thought, I'm going to send her a care package, and the best way to do that, I was going to get her some flowers, and I thought, Colorado's beautiful. I'll videotape the scenery, and maybe I'll send her a copy of the videotape, and maybe that'll entice her to come visit me. I actually went up the back roads to the foothills of Denver, Colorado, and I was going to videotape, the skyline and videotape the mountains behind me. And I noticed that when I was driving up there, there's one particular part right before you get to the foothills, there were some cars that were pulled over the side, approximately 20, 30 cars maybe. And the people had gotten out of their cars and they were looking up in the sky. And I was driving, as I drove closer, I noticed that there were some power lines off to my left, which would be south. And above the power lines was an object. And the object must have been maybe only 60, 100 foot above the ground, not that far from the power lines. And I thought it was at first I thought it was a hot air balloon. I thought the hot air balloon was going to crash into the power lines. So I was concerned, but as I got closer, I realized it was actually a metallic craft. Just, stationary in the sky above these power lines. I got even closer and I realized that it wasn't like any craft I'd ever seen. And at this time in my life, I really didn't believe in UFOs. I didn't believe in ghosts. I'm thinking, well, this has to be some kind of military experiment. But what I noticed was there was a large spherical object on top and 6 smaller spheres on the bottom. And the smaller spheres didn't look like they were attached in any way, shape, or form. They were just rotating counterclockwise under this larger sphere. And in the center of these spheres was the blackest black I'd ever seen in my life. Looked like you were looking into infinity. We all watched this for a while. Eventually it corkscrewed away. 10 minutes later, 2 fighter jets flew in the same direction as this UFO. And after that, my life went crazy. Even more amazingly, a few weeks after the news got a hold of it, the local news got a hold of it and aired it, somebody gave me a call from Nellis Air Force Base. And apparently this guy Nellis has test ranges, Nellis, Nevada, I guess it is, have test ranges where planes do dogfights and practice their flying skills. Well, this same UFO in the 90s was tracked by one of the ground cameras over the test range. And the guy told me about this, and I got the video. So it was the same UFO. It was crazy.
Fantastic. Now, I take it you sent the video off to Lisa, said, hey, come and live in Colorado because we've got UFOs down here.
Well, what happened was, I didn't believe it, and Lisa actually did. And I'm going, you aren't going to believe. I kind of let her know what I was going to do. And I said, well, I never made it. And I said, you aren't going to believe what I just videotaped, because I had my camera with me, and I started videotaping this object. And when I did, I remember the object just from about 100 feet literally popped to about 1,000 foot in a matter of an instant. And I can tell you, if anybody would have been in that vehicle, there's no way they would have survived. Not at those speeds, but I watched it for myself.
Well, of course, we always tend to work on the basis of G-force with our own gravity and our own understanding of science, so it's quite possible that they have something that allows them to do that. And I think perhaps that propulsion method, they are geared for that type of movement. And I've said this, that scientists, I think, here in the UK, in the UK and around the world, have all been saying the same thing. Oh, there can't be life on Mars because there's no oxygen, there's no water, there can't be life on the moon. That's as we know it. How do we know these other races are built for that? How, they may not need gravity, they may not need water. So I think, a lot of the time science is basically telling us the principles based very much on the Homo sapien.
You know, the way I look at it now is they have to take gravity with them when they travel somehow. But yeah, you know, I used to, one of the big things that made me a skeptic, I was always taught that you can't go faster than the speed of light. And the closest the closest star to us is 4 light years. That means it'd take you at the speed of light 4 years to get to the closest star. Well, after this happened, you know, a few years after this happened, I went to a planetarium and I was watching this thing on the Hubble Space Telescope and talked to one of the NASA people that were there. And he told me, he goes, oh yeah, there's things faster than the speed of light. And now we're learning about wormholes and stuff like that. And it just totally changed my mind about what was possible. And, you know, there's a lot of people that do not want this information out. And they keep trying to convince people that you can't go faster than the speed of light even though you really can. You know, they have proof that there's things that can. And, you know, it's just time for people to grow up and understand that, you know, this is real.
Absolutely. Now, what about these little guys that keep playing Peebo at your window? Now, I've seen the footage of this, and I know Danny Dyer was over with you recently from British TV, and it's quite an amazing video, but of course the skeptics are going to say there was someone outside with a head on a stick or a balloon or something. What actually happened? Describe what actually happened that night.
Well, we named that video, that particular, whatever it is, we named him Boo, Peekaboo. I got married, moved to Nebraska. I have stepchildren. I have stepdaughters that are twins. Beautiful girls. They're 21 now. At the time, they were young teenagers. And I was I was watching TV and I got up to get something to drink, I believe. And I noticed movement outside of one of the windows. And I'm thinking, what in the world are the kids playing games? Couldn't find anything. Then I start thinking, well, man, I think we have a peeping Tom. We've got some pervert trying to see my stepdaughters. This went on off and on for months. And I called the police. I let all the neighbors know. And nothing. You know, I could never catch this guy. We even went so far as to leaving twigs and sticks or anything that, you know, if this guy stepped on him, you know, while I was trying to look in the window, I'd hear it, and I had a bat by the door, and I was going to go out and chase this guy. One of the researchers involved in my case, and by this time I've had a lot of other things happen, abduction experience and stuff, he said, well, you've got a camera. It's a Sony camcorder, and it has night shot on it. Next time you see movement, just quickly go get your camera, set it on a tripod, point it toward that window, and pretend like you're going to bed. Well, I didn't actually go to bed. I went to the bathroom, and I was sitting at the edge of the bathtub looking at a magazine because I really wanted to catch this guy. And I remember seeing 2 flashes of light, real bright flashes of light, even with the door halfway closed, thinking that was odd. And after the second flash of light, I peeked out of the bathroom door, and I see this head pop down because I had a clear view of that window down the hallway. And it's like, yes, I got him. Well, I quickly ran out, and you can hear me say, I got the bastard. And I looked out the window, and it was almost a full moon, I think, you know, clear enough that I could see what I thought was a small child running toward the backyard. And he clipped the bush with his shoulder as he was running. And it was almost like he sensed me because he stopped dead in his tracks, and he slowly turned his head and looked me straight in the eyes. And I can tell you his eyes were not normal.